I did not think this was going to happen. I had honestly resigned myself to thinking that like we wouldn't be friends.
Yeah, no, me too. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy. Visit betterhelp.com/Padilla because sometimes existing is exhausting. And if you want to watch this episode completely ad-free, no sponsorships, no censorship, click the join button down below to become a member. But anyway, let's get to it. I think we should start with a hug. I think that's what we gotta start.
All right.
We gotta start with a hug.
Do we have to be like this really awkward low hug?
Yeah, with the butts out like this. No, holy shit. I can't believe this is happening. This is the most requested episode. We were waiting to do this episode until we had proper context, proper reasoning to be sitting here. And the time was right when we owned Smosh again.
We bought Smosh?
So we bought Smosh again.
Oh,
we bought Smosh again. We own Smosh.
We own Smosh now.
Together, we are helming that ship.
But do some of these people even know what Smosh is?
Should we explain what Smosh is for anyone that doesn't know?
Anthony Padilla and IAN HECOX scribbled their ideas on a notepad and then turned them into short video clips, lip-singing to video game cartoon songs. They're now cyberspace celebrities.
We first became friends because we got matched together in a science project. It was 6th grade, and...
Yeah, like a biology class? What was it? We were drawing a landfill.
It was like we had to do like a drawing of like a landfill, and we were like drawing flies on trash and thought it was really funny.
We draw like spirally poop.
Yeah, and I think that's how we like kind of realized that we had like similar senses of humor.
I still remember that day of just like bouncing off each other and being like, oh, what if we did this? And then you're like, oh, but then if we do that, we do this. And then we kind of just were like building on top of each other's ideas, and that's still the exact same way that we create stuff now.
Yeah.
We made the Power Rangers lip sync video.
Yep.
That was our very first Smosh video that we ever created together.
Yep.
And that was just a product of me having been over at my dad's, and I saw he had a webcam, and I'd never seen anyone with a webcam before. I'd never seen a webcam in person before.
Your dad's a secret cam model before it was cool.
He was a cam girl.
Yeah.
And we used that to create our first video.
Several videos.
Lip sync videos were kind of popular on the internet.
Yeah, like lip sync videos were like the first videos to like pop off on the internet, where it was just like people just singing to a song. I mean, it's TikTok. It's a freaking cycle,
full circle.
Man. And I think the thing that like that set us apart in the lip sync was that like we added like little jokes in there where it was like we'll have us like fighting like the Power Rangers, and then it'll cut back to us lip syncing.
We made a few others. We made the Mortal Kombat lip sync video. That is what popped off. Like a week later, we came out with the Pokemon lip sync video.
Yep.
And it was only because we found YouTube that I got super hyped up on like, let's create the next one. Yep. And then everyone was coming to see this new website. All these news articles were popping up about like
YouTube.
This new video hosting website. Will video be the future of the internet? Probably not, because we're all on dial-up internet and it's way too slow to ever have this be widespread, but we were right there on the front page.
Yep. The name of the game in the beginning was like consistency. So we were like, okay, we need to make a video like once every 2 weeks.
We were one of YouTube's first 10 channels to be brought into a monetization program.
I was like, oh, dang, like this is consistent money. I quit my job so we could do YouTube full time. And I remember like looking at my bank account, and it was down to like $4. And then like that first payment hit. And I was like, woohoo. Then it was like, okay, this is a job. This is a job now.
Balls to the wall full time at that point. And our entire lives became about Smosh.
Yeah.
Even us hanging out, I don't think that we even really hung out outside of being on camera too much. I mean, we played some games together and like had lunch and stuff like that, but...
I mean, we were living together, working together, hanging out. I mean, like it was... Our YouTube, like what did become our lives, like completely.
It was not gonna be sustainable to continue working like that.
Yeah.
So a company who we'd been working with to sell ads on the website, to sell ads on Smosh.com, they proposed the idea of purchasing Smosh. I mean, I feel like now in hindsight, it's like, okay, they offered you stock for this purchase.
Yeah.
And you agreed to sell your company for stock. Like, obviously that sounds like a stupid idea, but at that time there was no way to know.
No, because I think that, you know, it's all hindsight. It's like that company could have gone lots of different directions, and it was new territory. Like nobody had ever done this kind of stuff before. Nobody had ever sold a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It was like, for us, it was like, Smosh was something that you and I created, and we had the opportunity of being involved in something that was bigger than ourselves. And this kind of stuff happens all the time in other areas of media. So it was like, yeah, what a cool opportunity, and like getting support from a larger company.
I mean, it felt like they had infinite resources. For us.
Well, they were playing with somebody else's money.
When they came to us and said, you're going to get this amount of stock,
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, I could retire with this money.
Yeah.
Plus, we were spending so much time worrying about all these other elements that the idea of a company taking on all of it and you and I just get to focus on creating.
YouTube as a career and as like an industry was still so new that we didn't know how long this was gonna last. We were seeing YouTubers at that point like burning out.
Yeah.
Like people that were taking on everything themselves were burning out, were quitting YouTube,
We signed a 4-year contract to continue working there on this stuff after selling, and obviously we planned to continue upping that contract and
definitely,
making it better for ourselves. But seeing that we could at least do this for 4+ years was super attractive.
Yeah, totally.
And it was like we get to just fuck around and have fun and like enjoy doing what we do with our lives.
Focus on the creative side of things and
Yeah.
not like the administrative
Yeah.
and like the website.
We started doing so many things at that moment, though. The company DEFY that we sold Smosh to started presenting tons and tons of new projects for us to do. They're like, oh, do this comic book, now this live stream, now this movie, now this mobile game, now this magazine. There were all these things that it felt like we couldn't really say no to because A, they were really cool opportunities, and seeing this crazy idea come to fruition sounded really, really cool. But also, whenever I expressed like, this is a lot, on my plate, we're already doing these 3 YouTube channels, there was kind of this tone of, well, the more work you do, the higher the value of the company is, the more the stock value is going to be. And also, we need to bring this money in to please the investors, so we have to do this.
Right.
So it just felt like it was this impossible amount of work that kept building up, and there was expectations to say yes to every single opportunity that came through.
And for a lot of this stuff, again, we were kind of the first to do a lot of that stuff, so there wasn't a playbook of like, what is the best thing for a YouTube channel to do outside of YouTube videos? So it was like, okay, yeah, let's try a movie. Let's try a magazine. Let's try a comic book. Somebody has to make those mistakes first to learn like what works and what doesn't work. So
did we make some mistakes?
Oh, yeah, we
made
did.
some fucking mistakes.
There was a first draft of the Smosh the movie script that was horrendous.
It was trying to guess what Smosh was from an outsider's perspective who had no idea what Smosh was.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people when they're not like deep into like Smosh and they just kind of like know it because like maybe their like kid watched it, they assumed that Smosh was for children,
like literal 10-year-olds.
Yeah, and then so they would try to write something or try to pitch something that was for children, and it's like, no, like Smosh has always been stuff that we thought was funny, and it just so happens that children
love our sense of humor.
Got on the computer and watched it.
Yeah,
and maybe they shouldn't have watched it, but we never made it with like the distinct purpose of like we have to appeal to kids.
No, it was just that most of our really absurdist type humor appealed to kids because I think kids kind of got it.
Yeah, because I think that our sort of like sensibilities it was kind of like you're watching like a live action cartoon.
Yeah, that's how I felt too.
And I think like, yeah, who has the most time to watch YouTube? It's kids.
Well, plus YouTube was so new at the time that no adult even knew what it was.
True. I mean, like, look, was Smosh the movie a good movie? No, but
No one's denying that.
But I think like, would I take it back? No.
No.
I had an amazing experience.
It's true.
I think like, what a cool opportunity.
It was fun to make, even though it was bad.
But I will say, I know that there are people that did enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to take that away from them.
I wish that we could explain how much time
There
went
was
into
so
so
much
many
shit.
projects.
Yeah. But it was, I mean, we were trying to create something bigger than ourselves and like trying to create like a comedy empire. And
I imagined it as an empire, and I
Yeah.
felt like if we put in that work now, then we wouldn't have to do it later.
Right.
So I was willing to make the sacrifice of, yeah, sure, I'll work 80 to 100 hours a week working on this thing without any extra pay because it's
Yeah.
building toward something bigger.
yeah.
But that destroyed my mental health. It destroyed my relationships. I don't think that I really talked to my parents during that time. It was just smosh, eat, and shit. That was it.
And occasionally kiss a girlfriend.
Yes, when she wasn't angry at me because I spent 80 hours working on Smosh and not paying any attention. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you had a vlog channel for a second.
And a fucking vlog. And then I
So you
would-
get home and then you'd have to do and then you'd have to do daily
daily
vlogs.
vlog.
Oh my god. Sorry, I probably shouldn't do that for your channel.
No,
I could do that for a
I
Smosh
think,
channel,
I think
but
that
I
was
can't.
very appropriate for
Yeah.
this for that moment. Actually.
No, I can't imagine. I know I was like, there's no way, there's no fucking way I'm daily vlogging.
And you know what? You were right.
Yeah.
I'd say that was a good choice.
I'm glad I was right about one thing.
You were in the right camp for that.
Yeah.
And our friendship started deteriorating as
What
well.
friendship?
I mean, it was weird because we had a really close friendship when we first started making the videos.
Yeah.
You know, it was literally just us fucking around having a good time.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a great case study on what happens when two best friends decide to start a business partnership
Yeah.
and also become roommates and not spend any time apart from each other.
I don't think we talked about anything in our personal lives at a certain point. It
What
literally,
personal lives?
That's true.
What personal lives
That's
did we
true.
have?
Also, feelings? What are those?
Well, no. I mean, you can't bring feelings into it because then that causes conflict.
True. And we
And
wanted
you,
to be
and you can't
smooth.
cause conflict when you're in a business relationship because then the business could fail. We're masters at being passive aggressive. And we were
Yeah.
masters at not having conflict. And
I felt it,
for sure.
but it never came out.
And I'm sure, like, you know, we would like vent to our significant others about, you know, shit between us, but we would never talk it out between ourselves. And it's so funny because like so much of our like brand identity was like about us being like best friends. So it's like you're kind of like wrestling with that where it's like we got to keep this good,
yeah, yeah.
but not in like a healthy way.
I would vent to you a little bit about,
But it was about business.
it was about business stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't talking about feelings related to us. I was
No.
talking about feelings related to,
how you thought like you were getting screwed over by, or like how you thought we were getting screwed over by our parent company. And
when I started realizing that things were deteriorated to the up beyond repair with the company that we were at the time with Smosh. You know, I made the decision that I think I need to leave this thing. And I think there's probably some world where I could have stuck around and just kind of like been like, well, it's okay. They want to do all these things. It doesn't need to be perfect. I'll just do what I do best.
right.
But I felt like it had almost spiraled out of control to the point where it wasn't anything that I could enjoy anymore. Plus our friendship was just, so
Right,
it was
yeah.
like, who am I going to talk about this kind of stuff with?
I feel like we both kind of knew that like our relationship outside of work was like weird. Like
Yeah.
where like we would like occasionally we would like hang out outside of work and it just felt awkward.
Yeah.
Like
I felt like there was something that we weren't saying.
It just
the whole
felt like
time.
kind of forced. You know, when we started this, we were 17, and at this point, we were in our late 20s, and you change so much as a person in that time. What we expected and how it was always portrayed online is that we stayed the same.
Yeah.
But like obviously throughout those years, you have all these experiences and you're exposed to all these different things, and your interests change, and the things that make you laugh change, and the things that you want to do change. But I feel like whenever we got together, we kept trying to replicate the same things that we enjoyed when we were like 17.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like, it just felt forced because it was like, oh, maybe we don't have like all the same interests that we used to. And maybe we want to spend our time in like in a different sort of way. And that's not ever something that we talked about.
No.
Like, it was just like, you know, we'd hang out and like, I don't know, play some like Mario Kart or something.
Yeah. It just felt like we were just, it was just very surface level.
Surface level, yeah.
It was like, here's what I'm doing. You're doing that thing too? How is that thing that you're doing right now? And there was no, like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What's going on in your world?
And if we ever talked about like the company, it was always just like, you know, just business.
Oh, I would just complain about all the shit that they were having us do.
Yeah. And then that would just like, and I would just always be like a little defensive and be like, well, you know, like, you know, maybe it's like, you know.
I remember
like,
you were looking at it really from the positive side of like, this is a crazy opportunity that no one gets to have, and here we are experiencing it.
There were certain ways that you could interpret us as being taken advantage of. I still saw it as like, let's not like ruin a good thing. Like, you know, I just like, for me, it's like, I was just like holding on to this thing because after this time, like we've seen mostly every channel that came up with us go away. And so like, I think I found myself kind of being like the mediator between like, you know, the issues you had with the company and the things that the company like wanted to do.
In my own interpretation, I was like, I guess Ian's fine getting taken advantage of, and you know, we didn't talk about that. Right. But it is true. I started to get in a really negative mindset. I was frustrated with everything. I had nowhere to I'd never been to therapy, nor did I have the concept of speaking about my emotions at all.
Sure.
So I was just holding on to all these frustrations, and I guess you were the only person I would vent to about my frustrations with the company.
Well, because I'm the only person that has the same experiences and understanding as you.
But then I felt like you didn't really hear me because you were looking at it from a positive mindset.
Yeah.
You know, and I know you understood to a certain degree, but I think it was easier for you to be like, yeah, those things suck, but we could just kind of let that go and just, it's just the way it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Did you just constantly feel positive about it?
I think for me, I just thought about the opportunity always. But I think I was also like operating on like, to a certain degree, like I was operating on like fear of like, I don't want to lose this thing.
I came to you with the idea of, well, I told you I was going to leave. I told you I couldn't do it anymore. I did say it'd be cool if we both left. But then I remember you were like, what does that mean though? Are we creating a new channel together?
Yeah.
And I feel like our friendship...
And we had talked about it before.
Yeah.
We had kind of sketched out like a potential thing of like, what would happen if like we were to create a new channel from the ground up? But it was like so much of what was keeping the main channel alive was the library.
Yeah.
The library of content, people going back and watching all of our older videos was what made that business model work, because making sketch comedy is not cheap.
No.
The idea of just starting something over, but it being the same thing, but just without a parent company, wasn't attractive to me, because I was like, we're just starting over and doing the same thing.
Yeah, I tried to get you to leave with me for a bit, but I could tell that you wanted to stay.
I don't think you tried that hard.
I didn't try that hard. You said I don't want to, and I said okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, we're not even that great of friends anyway. So.
Yeah. Well,
by that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at our core,
it didn't feel right.
Yeah.
It just didn't make sense to me. And
me leaving Smosh did not go well for me at first.
It was a little cringe.
It
was a little cringe.
Okay. And we've never talked about this part.
No.
Yeah, I was floundering around not knowing what I was supposed to do.
Okay, I wouldn't say it was like that. I'm just nagging you.
It was pretty cringe.
It wasn't like, look, it was very clear what was going, like I could see very clearly like what you were doing and like what was going on. It was very clear that you were trying to find your individual creative voice. And with the types of videos you were putting out, it felt very much like you'd throw this out and see if that would stick. You'd throw that out, see if that would stick. You'd get excited about something. I could tell like there was like a time when I think you were watching like Nathan For You, and you were like getting excited about this one kind of like style.
Yeah,
I
you read me like a book.
Well, I mean, it was clear. It's like, you know, we had come up with like this certain like creative voice, and it was very clear. Like when you left, you had to find your own voice.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff doesn't happen immediately.
No, and it sucks when you have millions of people watching you try to find your
and
voice.
Judging it. Yeah.
And judging, and then I'm judging myself,
Yeah.
and the comments saying you're nothing without Smosh,
Oh,
or
yeah.
Smosh is better off without you, and
Yeah.
all these types of comments got into my head that I'm nothing without this
Totally.
thing that I made. I think that I'm supposed to be doing comedy because that's what I did before, but then I'm trying to find my own voice within that, which just didn't feel right, and there was no structure to anything I was making.
Yeah.
And it was, I mean, I felt horrible. It was embarrassing. And yet we never talked about that. I don't think you
No.
ever mentioned my content to me ever.
No. Well,
Not
we
once.
also didn't really talk that much at that
Well,
time.
true. But like I
yeah.
remember I walked by you or like we saw each other in like the lobby of a hotel at VidCon. I think I was wearing the shirt that shirt right there.
Oh.
I was wearing my interview shirt, and you're like, oh, what are you doing? You're gonna go interview? And I felt this little sense of judgment about what I was doing. I was like, whoa, we've never talked about what I do at all anyway. But I felt this resentment that you had when I left Smosh. And I felt like when I first told you that I was gonna leave, it felt like it was all fine. And you're like, okay, you know, we'll figure it out. And I remember, you know, I brought you over here and I told you that, you know, this was the plan, and you texted me afterwards, and you like had an inside reference to like this old song that we used to listen to, the Refuse song, Ten Houser.
Oh, sure.
And you mentioned that you played that, and it was like a closing of a chapter.
Yeah.
And it was like this emotional, positive moment of like where there's this new chapter that we're gonna face separately now, and then I felt like that quickly diminished, and there was like some resentment that you started to have.
Well, I'll tell you what the resentment was.
What? I've never heard this before.
No, yeah. I feel like this is going to turn into a Maury episode.
This is why we came here.
No, you left Smosh, and then you didn't want to have anything to do with Smosh.
Yeah.
And you like didn't have any contact with anyone after that. Didn't really talk to anybody, and you didn't want to be in any collabs. Like you completely severed yourself after that point. For me, I was like, seems like us collaborating would be like a no-brainer. Like this could be great. Like, you know, you come on our stuff, we go on your stuff, whatever. Like it seemed like it would be like a great like relationship, but you completely like, you know, set up your boundaries. And that for me was like really frustrating. I didn't understand like why it was like such a rule that we couldn't do videos. But I did understand it from like a personal level, because, you know, Smosh is so intertwined with both of our identities. Like if we go out in public and get recognized, more often than not, somebody's gonna say Smosh. And so I think like for as long as, you know, we are recognized in public, it's all like 9 times out of 10, or maybe now 7 times out of 10 for you, like somebody is going to say Smosh. And I understand like when you left Smosh, you wanted to create your own identity and prove, and you've kind of talked about this to me a little bit, like you wanted to prove that you could be successful without any help from Smosh. You could be successful on your own and create something entirely separate.
Well, also, I didn't want to be attached to something that had caused me so much pain because it was taken, to me, it felt like it was taken from me and bastardized and turned into something and like spit out this like almost generic version of what I felt like we sought out to create. And there was so much pain attached to this brand.
Because it's, at the end of the day, it is just business.
Yeah.
And the problem is, like, we have so much of our personal selves wrapped up in this business that, you know, when somebody decides to make like a new show on the channel, that was a business move. Like it shouldn't reflect on you as like a person, but it does because everyone else's perception of Smosh is that any decision is like a decision that we've made.
Yeah.
And anything that's on a channel is a reflection of us. Everything becomes personal.
Yeah.
When a lot of things are just business.
It's true because our only communication was through and about Smosh.
Yeah.
So when that severed, there was nothing else there.
Yeah. I then had to figure out what is Smosh? Like, what is Smosh without this sort of like foundational beginning of being like two best friends making videos.
That's true. That was the entire brand.
Yes.
The main channel.
No. Like the main channel was already shifting. If you remember, like Every Blank Evers, which was like the thing that we were doing with the other cast, Shane, Courtney, Olivia, Noah, Keith, those were surpassing our sketches.
Yeah, and you know that I felt that a little bit of like, oh, even this thing that I felt was the foundation of Smosh is even being surpassed by other things.
Yeah, I do understand, like creatively, where you were seeing like, oh, like these other people on our channel are now more popular just because those videos were more broad in scope of like, you know, what the comedy was about. It was better for like SEO. Like it was just strategically, it was just hitting the algorithm better at that point than Ian and Anthony sketches.
Also, I had completely lost passion for the sketches because I was so drained with all the other outside projects that by the time we even got into write stuff, it was just like, here's the remaining 1% of my creative energy that I could put on this thing. And then it was...
Yeah, I think you were pretty checked out by that.
Yeah, I was just show up and do the thing. And I can literally go back and look at the videos through the entire Smosh library.
Yeah.
And I could see like when my passion started deteriorating and when it was just like gone.
Yeah. The thing with Smosh is like, you know, for the longest time we had the sort of like brand identity of like, it's Ian and Anthony.
Yeah.
And I mean, the truth was there's this sort of like whole team, this like group of creative, funny, great people that are all working together to create this stuff. And so that became my focus of kind of trying to expand the spotlight of like who's working on Smosh and who's creating this stuff. And then a year later, we were in the middle of pre-production on a round of shoots, and there had been rumblings about things being not so great at our parent company, and we had a call with the leadership team, and they were like, just so you know, like our bank, blah 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 blah, like don't be worried, like we're figuring it out, but there are some issues. And then somebody goes, have you seen the email?
Oh,
like looks up from their computer, like, have you seen the email?
yeah.
We're like, what are you talking about? And we all opened up our email. They notified everybody via email that said, effective immediately, DEFY Media ceasing business operations. So we were all just like in the middle of work at the office. Everyone gets this email and it's just like, it's over.
And then all hell breaks loose and the riots start?
Sort of. Okay, so we all don't have jobs anymore? Like, what is Smosh? Like, is it done? And so we we send a couple people out to get alcohol. And and we kind of throw a bit of a rager at the office.
Holy shit.
And, you know, shit gets broken. People walk out with stuff. You know, people, I think, were pissing on the president's table.
Literally?
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy
They took a piss on his desk because he wasn't there, by the way.
well, I hope not. I'm honestly kind of glad I wasn't there for that. It sounds like
Dude, it was
pure
crazy.
chaos.
People were like, they had a bunch of like Defy Media mugs.
Yeah.
And people were like going into this one studio and just like smashing them with baseball bats.
Why
and,
were
like,
people so pissed at Defy? Because like I was pissed at Defy for very separate reasons.
Well, I think it was just like I think it was just the attitude was just like F it, like, you know, getting that kind of like notice while at work without the leadership team being there to tell us in person.
It just seemed disrespectful.
And we just got an email.
Yeah.
I mean, at least we didn't find out about it on Twitter like some other companies.
True.
But yeah, the leadership team wasn't there to tell us in person, and I think a lot of people felt really slighted by that. And you know, we had this like big like prop and wardrobe room that had like all of our costumes, and I remember a couple of people being like, "Can I have this?" And I was like, "I don't know, sure." So like, we don't have like the Assassin's Creed outfit that we made.
Or the Link
I don't think we
outfit.
have. We don't have the Link outfit.
And did that happen because of the riots?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. And yeah,
I was wondering where those props went.
We just threw a rager at the office that night. And I don't know, like I remember like telling some people, I was like, look, I don't know what this means for Smosh, but it can't be over. So Red Link stepped up and acquired Smosh.
I mean, they were with us from the beginning in many ways.
Yeah, they're also OGs. Like they've been running like a successful channel for a long time. They understand like how important it is for like the creator to be in the driver's seat and not be meddling with content and not be pushing like a lot of crap. Big ups to Rhett and Link for believing in us and keeping it going to today, and then up to today where we actually got a text from Rhett and Link.
Literally just got a text like 5 minutes
in the middle
ago.
of our interview that said congratulations.
So we fucking own Smosh now. It's official
did it. We signed.
as of like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, we signed.
Holy
So
God.
Deal is closed. We officially own Smosh.
I never thought that it would get here. All the shit that I thought were the hugest problems between you and I, between Smosh and I, weren't really what I thought they were. They were really my own insecurities, and I needed to do all that in order for us to reconnect in the way that we have.
You know, when you left Smosh and people are like, oh, that must be really hard. Like, you know, what are you gonna do? I was like, the line that I said to a lot of people is that you needed to leave Smosh.
Yeah. No,
like,
it's true.
I believe like you needed to leave.
It's true. It needed to happen. I needed to disconnect from it and
totally
let go of that resentment and all those frustrations against, you know, the greater company, but also you, which I felt because there was that tension between us that we never spoke about. I think I took a lot of my frustrations out on what our friendship had become. The moment that I feel like I fully relinquished the pent up resentment and other harbored emotions, which took like 4 or 5 plus years, that's when you and I finally started reconnecting. Because before that, it was a lot of me saying, I wish things were like this, or I wish I didn't make that mistake, or if only we had done that thing, then things would be fine. Or, you know, once I was able to give that up, it all started to kind of start falling back into place in a weird way. Last year, you know, the kind of catalyst of us really becoming close again. I mean, first of all, my partner Mikey has been incredibly influential in inspiring me to grow and let go of shit and be more honest with myself and you know, learn how to talk about my emotions in a way where, you know, I could just be completely honest and not feel this wall, and, you know, start to reflect on why do I have all these walls up in my head of like, don't talk about this, or this hurts you too much, so don't go near that.
Right,
and,
right. Yeah.
You know, so I've started kind of dismantling all these protective measures that I've kind of on autopilot fallen into.
Mm-hmm.
And in that process, I kind of feel like I was at a really good place when your friend Diana reached out and was like, hey, do you want to do a you know, go to lunch with us? And it was the perfect timing, because at that point I had just really given up all those things that I resented, and I was able to then see the magic thing between us.
Yeah.
And in that process, I had also stopped resenting Smosh so much and what it was, and I was able to look back and reflect on what it was about what we made together that was so special.
Right.
And it started to kind of rekindle all these feelings of the magic that we would capture when we would make stuff together.
Yeah.
And I was able to see like what we made wasn't just because we were like really good at writing scripts or something. It really was, you know, we really captured that magic of us just being together, being vulnerable, experiencing, you know, some funny moment together, and then expanding on that. And it was the perfect storm, because then we hung out, and I felt like for the first time in years, like I don't even know when our friendship really started deteriorating to the point where we couldn't even really hang out and just be ourselves, but it was like maybe 7, 8, 9 years since we really were able to just be ourselves.
Yeah, so my friend Diana, I remember like I had talked to her a bunch about you and you know, kind of Smosh, and she's also a YouTube creator, so she kind of understands the whole thing, and she was kind of like pushing me to you know, reconnect.
Did you express anything that you wanted to, or was she the only one pushing it?
She pushed it. Yeah.
So, but you had done some personal growth in that time as well, or else you probably would have just shut it down, right?
I don't know, but I just, you know, it had been so long, and like, you know, you kind of build up like all these like, because we hadn't hung out, and I mean, we hadn't legitimately like hung out in probably a couple of years, I would say. And yeah, it was so like chill. Like it was just kind of like, I feel like we kind of like fell back into our like rhythm of like, you know, we have the same like comedic sensibilities, and like, you know, even though we've like changed as people, and you got more bling and more tattoos, like we still like,
hey, you got a little bling too. Let's not discount it.
I know your boy got a chain now.
Baby's first chain. The baby's first chain. And you got face bling too.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
What do you think it was about that hang that was so different? Because we had not gotten lunch before.
Because our walls were up, I think. Like it was still like, you know, like I was going through this whole, you know, it's been weird, like to not do Smosh with you and have to like try to assume this like leadership position. My first year back into Smosh, I was so f***ed up. Like I guess it was to the point that like on multiple occasions, people would just like walk up to me and be like, "Hey, are you okay?"
Were you like just dissociated?
Yeah. Where I was just like, yeah, I was just kind of like swimming. I was a master of compartmentalizing things. And I think that's just how we survived after so many years of doing YouTube, is that we would just compartmentalize things.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is an issue. I'm just gonna shelve that.
Future Ian will worry about that.
Yeah, future Ian will worry about that. Or like, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Like, and then finally, like I went and like got a therapist.
So you caved.
Yeah, I didn't know like what was going on with me. The first time I had like a consultation with a therapist, like I like met with her and I kind of explained things to her, and she asked me like a series of questions, and then she was like, "Okay, well, you're not a sociopath, so that's good." But it was just like, because it was just like, I don't know, like I just wasn't like feeling things. Like I was just so numb.
What did you learn to feel emotions
I
after
don't know,
that?
probably. But
That sounds like an absolute yes.
But I think like I was just thrown into the deep end, and it was the only way for me to survive in that sort of role. And I think like with you and I, like we had this level of trust, and we had this ability to like bounce ideas off of each other. When you left, I didn't necessarily have that same level of trust. Like I was on an island, because before at DEFY, we all had somebody to vent about. We were like, oh, it's DEFY. DEFY is the big bad guy.
But now you're the leader.
And then now I'm the leader. And then, you know, in some ways I'm the big bad guy because I got to make decisions. So yeah, it was hard.
And then we reconnect or we go to lunch and you realize that like the walls are down?
No, it's just that like we grew as people, but the things that just in terms of like comedy, like, you know, it hadn't changed that much. Like in terms of like what we thought was funny. And it's like, you know, we're sitting there and we're like laughing, and like, you know, it's the pressure was definitely not there.
Yeah, I don't think that any time that we had hung out or gotten lunch in the Insta room up to that point, I was able to just fully laugh, or you were even able to fully joke. So
no,
I think that was probably the biggest difference with that hang itself. Is
I think it helped to have mediators too, because then it wasn't this.
There wasn't,
because we weren't ready for this.
Yeah, it was the first time that we were able to really fully connect, and I think that was when I realized, like, oh shit. I'm gonna cry a little bit. I was like, wow. And we never even expressed emotions to each other, so this is great.
I still won't.
Okay, good. I was like, my childhood friend that I grew up with is still here, you know?
Yeah.
I thought that our relationship had evolved so far away from that. I thought you had changed. I thought I had changed too much.
Yeah.
That I thought that it was just no going back, but seeing that we were still there at our core.
Yeah.
You know, that the foundation of what makes us who we are, you know, what we developed in our child, that sense of humor, the way that we connected when we were younger, and that project in 6th grade, just one-upping each other and just enjoying that feeling that we then recreated with Smosh for so many years. It was still there, almost like it had never left, which was just really a bizarre thing to realize that it was still there.
I mean, it's interesting because we did have to like let go of our friendship and find each other again later. Like we had to like let go of the idea of what our friendship was. Yeah. Because it was our idea of friendship was shaped not even necessarily, it was partly us, but it was also the audience.
Yeah.
And the expectations that the audience put on us.
I mean, and let's not even get into how the audience was constantly comparing us. So I think I also held some resentment about the way that
you're the hot one, I'm the funny one.
Yeah, and I'd be like, I have no value except
it's still true. Let's just.
I was like, I have no value except for just the genes that I was born with.
It's true.
Yeah, it is true.
I think we were definitely like holding on to like an idea of what our friendship was.
I was holding on to an identity, and the audience only knew me as that identity.
Yeah.
And because I thought I was that identity that was, presenting on camera, that when someone would say something about the thing that they saw, the version of me that they saw, I thought that they were talking about me. And I just held on to so much resentment just based on the things that people were saying. And I think that in my own journey in the past 6 years, a huge part of that has been understanding my own value internally with myself and not needing the external things to either make me feel good or make me feel bad about what people have to say or what they think.
Yeah.
And I think letting go of all that, like that huge amount of resentment that I had that I didn't even realize I had, like that even allowed me to connect without those walls last year.
Yeah. I think like once we stopped trying, we didn't really talk we like occasionally texted, but we didn't really talk that much for a couple of years. And I think like we really did have to like let go of that. And I think, you know, that's kind of the thing of like, you know, adult relationships and adult friendships where it's, you know, you have to allow that kind of growth, and it's okay to have something and for that thing to be great and then let go of that. And if you happen to come back around and you happen to reconnect, that's great, but you shouldn't feel the pressure to do that. Of course, like our friendship will always be intertwined with business, unfortunately. But I think that, you know, I think that we are a little bit more equipped,
way more equipped
to deal with this now and discuss, you know, our boundaries and how we're feeling and you know, what it is that what our needs are. I did not think this was going to happen. I had honestly resigned myself to thinking that like we wouldn't be friends.
Yeah, no, me too. But let's go ahead and thank our sponsor for this episode, BetterHelp. Therapy has helped reframe my view of the world and myself by allowing me to feel empathy for my younger self and therefore understand who I am today better. But therapy can be customized to whatever is right for you and can be useful in helping with motivation or feelings of depression, anxiety, stress, insecurity, or whatever else you might need. BetterHelp screens all their therapists to ensure that they have experience and that they're certified and licensed, and they provide customized therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone or speak over the phone if that's not something that you're comfortable with. As you may have found out by now, therapy can be expensive, and the price of finding a therapist that you like and connect with can be overwhelming, which is why BetterHelp offers a more affordable alternative to in-person therapy, where you can start communicating with your therapist in less than 48 hours. So huge thank you to BetterHelp for giving I Spent a Day with viewers and listeners 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/Padilla. That's betterhelp.com/Padilla. Now, let's get back to the world of IAN HECOX. There is one moment, one thing that you did for me when we were younger that really stood out to me that I never mentioned to you, and I never thanked you for.
Oh no, you have some secret thing that have you been holding something this whole time?
I've been holding it in.
Oh, this is good for the trailer.
I don't even know what year it was. I was 15. We were 15.
What?
We were 15.
You went back that far?
Yeah, and that was a very interesting year for me.
Yeah,
because I came down with an autoimmune disease.
Yep.
And I was incapacitated for
half a
months.
year, right?
Yeah, I was bedridden for like 3 months.
Yeah,
and then after that, I started to feel a little bit better, but I was so weak that I still had to just do schooling from home. So I missed half the school year.
Yeah, you were gone for half the year.
Yeah, and I don't know how you got it to me, but somehow you got a get well soon card that you gave to me. Okay, I don't know if it was you that came up with the idea or your mom, or if like your mom told you had to do it.
I don't know. Did a bunch of people sign it?
And a whole bunch of people signed it.
Oh, okay,
and you wrote a message like, get well soon, we
Wow, I'm pretty amazing.
It was like, we can't wait to see you again. And that, it really meant a lot to me. And yeah, it kind of kept me motivated and focused, and I don't know why, but for some reason it motivated me to learn how to, you know, program a website, program a game, and I feel like because of that, in some ways, I was able to channel my energy to creating the things that eventually culminated in what Smosh, what the foundation of Smosh was.
Yeah, I'm sure that was like an incredibly like isolating, like horrible, like few months for you.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I could see that for sure.
You don't even remember doing it, but you know, it was for me to feel better, and it worked.
Yeah. Well, so what you're saying is that all this is because of me.
Basically.
Wow, I'm awesome.
Basically, yeah, you created Smosh.
All right, great. You said it. You said it. So
I was really clinging onto this idea of what our friendship was and should be. And once I was able to resign those and just let it exist exactly as it was, then we were actually able to connect without my expectations for what it should be or should have been. Everything needed to kind of line up exactly as they have for this opportunity to present itself, for us to reconnect as friends, and then for the concept of us buying back and having full and complete ownership and creative control again, which is something we haven't had in over a decade.
When we pitched the idea of potentially working together.
Wait, do you want to say how that happened?
Yeah, I mean, stuff was going on at Smosh, and I was kind of there was a few outcomes that were looming on the horizon for Smosh. The main channel specifically has just been kind of like, it just hasn't quite found its footing over the past few years, and keep trying to find a voice for it and just not clicking. And one of the options that I was considering that I thought wasn't possible, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna like for once be brave and just fucking say it. And we were outside on your deck, and I was like, what if we bought Smosh? And you were like,
I remember,
dude.
I was like, dude, I was just, and I remember literally just jumping up.
Jumped up, and you were like, I've been talking about this for like months with, I think Mikey. I think you were talking to somebody about like the possibility of like owning Smosh again.
Yeah.
And you like launched into this like 30-minute diatribe about what we could do with the channel.
I put together this insane plan in my head.
And I was just like sitting there like, Jesus Christ, man. I just like said, what if we bought Smosh? Like, why are you giving me a whole like business rundown right now? Like,
well, I had been ruminating on this idea after we reconnected. I think, at that point I'd really allowed myself to dig back into all the old stuff that we made together and figure out what it was, why there was this magic that I felt when watching this specific era of our content.
Yeah.
And then I started getting really excited about what it would be like to make that again. And I started having all these ideas for new sketches that we could make. And I come up with the most insane ideas, and I can't stop thinking about how can this be as great as possible.
Yeah.
And I even threw out the ideas of like, we could utilize YouTube's new membership feature, and then it could kind of, because most of the stuff that we made would be immediately demonetized if we made classic style Smosh sketches.
Yeah.
So I was like, we could launch memberships, which we have, and it's like this could partly be crowdfunded to a certain degree, just enough to give us reassurance that we could create content and not have to worry.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason why we were struggling with sketch comedy back when we were still making it, you and me, was like all the sort of everything that works on YouTube does not work for sketch comedy. It takes a whole day to shoot one video.
Yes.
That's not financially, that doesn't make any financial sense, and you can't do that anymore. That's why you don't see sketch comedy on YouTube.
Thousands and thousands of dollars, so much time and energy, huge production schedule
all
in
for
one day.
A 4-minute video that will, if you get 1 million views on it, you're lucky to make like a couple $1,000s.
Yeah.
And
that barely covers.
That doesn't cover the cost.
That doesn't cover the production cost.
So it makes zero sense.
Yeah.
But with memberships what we're part of what we're betting on with our sketches is that we're going to provide bonus content for members, and then it'll be funded by the people that are watching it.
Yeah,
and then it'll make sense, and it'll make sketch comedy sustainable.
Yeah, I think this is the only way that sketch comedy is sustainable, is that we need that extra support from the audience to allow us to make the kind of content that we were making, or else we have to, kind of do what you had to do at Smosh for so long, which is not do scripted stuff, only do unscripted, and it needs to be advertiser friendly, and
Yeah.
and that goes against like the exact opposite of what we established with the tone of the sketches that we made for so many years.
Yeah.
Should we have a direct to camera moment? I mean, thank you.
Become a member.
Become a member. Like it's the only way
Thank you.
that we can sustainably
On Smosh, not on
do
this channel.
sketches.
Not this channel. On Smosh.
Yeah,
Well,
only
this
on
channel too.
Only,
This channel has a membership too. You can do both.
but like the reason that I focus so much on the importance of memberships is because I didn't want to sacrifice the type of content or the jokes or the style or any of it.
Yeah.
Because I felt like the magic of what made so many of those sketches that I went back to that I thought initially were just a product of their time, that I was just blinded by nostalgia when I would remember how funny they were. But then having so much time apart, going back and analyzing them, seeing like all these things that make it feel like Smosh to me are all the things that would immediately get it demonetized, that are too expensive to do, that don't make any sense anymore with the business model that you kind of have to have with the way that YouTube is now.
So before it became like, okay, we're gonna do this, we were like, okay, we should try writing a Smosh sketch.
Yeah. As like an
And-
exercise to see if we still had it.
Yeah, and you were like, oh, like come over to my house and we'll write a sketch. And dude, I was so skeptical.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, dude, this is gonna be like internally. I didn't tell you this because I didn't want to bring the vibe down.
Honestly, I'm glad
but
you didn't say
Yeah,
it.
no, I didn't. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was just thinking in the back of my head, I was like, dude, this is gonna be so cringe.
What
Like-
was it? What do you think it was going to be like?
I thought it was gonna suck. I thought it was gonna be like a slog. To
You mean
like
you thought
write
it was
a
going to?
sketch.
You thought it was going to be like the stuff that I was making when I went independent in 2017?
You had a lot of videos that ended in you crying.
Yeah, I did realize that. In fact, commenters were like, "Wow, these are great. I love when you cry. You cry all the time." And I was like, "This really is just a representation of who I am, isn't it?"
We started writing, and like pretty quickly, I was like noticing. I was like, we're like laughing.
Yeah,
We're
I was.
like-
I remember one moment where I cried laughing for like 30 to 45 full seconds, just on the ground, like literally groveling.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like I was just like trying to take it in, and it was like, oh, this is like this is real. Like this is, we're actually like doing this again, and we're like falling right back into this like this sort of creative process of like making comedy, and it works.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because I just did not believe that was going to happen. And I just like, I went in there just being like, whatever, we're just gonna see what this is like.
Yeah.
And I left there and I was like, I just like felt good. I was like, we just like, we didn't completely finish a sketch. It's not like we had like it totally done, but like we threw stuff on the page that made us laugh.
But I think the fact that we work in such different ways, like I'm able to really hyper focus on something and put all my energy just like back to back constantly in one chunk.
Yeah.
I think that works really well when paired against the way that you work, where you are super creative and
My head's just kind of up in the clouds.
yeah, but I feel like you need to be wherever you are. I don't know where the f you are sometimes, but you need to be there in order for those ideas to come up, you know? I could never come up with most of the ideas that you come up with, but I feel like I know how to formulate it and put it together.
We've always made like a good like creative partnership because of that, where it's like I'll throw out a lot of like random shit where it's like, I think I say a lot of times like, okay, this is a really stupid idea.
It's my favorite when
Yeah.
we're writing and you're like, this is a really stupid idea, but I'm like,
what if we
give
do
it
this?
to me?
Yeah. And then like if it's kind of a lazy idea, you'll be like, oh, like I think we could do better than that. If we're not like dying over that joke, you'll be like, that's good, but like could we do this? Or could we like, you know, like could we get something that's better? I'm like, okay, yeah, that's
I feel
true.
like the dynamic that works so well is that I'm able to see, I think when one of your ideas is like rock solid and lock that in, and otherwise I see it as just a starting point, or you're not afraid to go completely off the rails and come up with a completely random idea, but I think it's just about like finding the right context for that, or using that as a starting point to get to an even better idea. And I remember when you left, or when you were leaving my house that day, you had this sense of bewilderment on your face. You were like, wow, okay. Well, that was really good. That was, it was really fun. That's really funny.
Yeah.
And you had this like, I could tell you had this oh shit moment.
Yeah. I mean, that was the turning point, because I needed to be convinced that this wasn't just nostalgia and that this was like, we could actually create again.
Yeah.
And I needed to believe in this.
Yeah, and I knew that.
And I didn't believe in it until we sat down and wrote a script, and then it's like, okay, I think we could do this.
Yeah, and I knew that, and I had my own doubts. That's why I set that meeting. I was like, we're gonna write a script.
Yeah.
And it felt a little bit weird because it was like, why are we writing a Smosh script together? There's no way we're gonna own Smosh again.
Very silly. Yeah. We started Smosh like 17 and a half years ago.
Yeah.
We have literally gone through a generation of people.
That's true.
And we see that like Smosh in a weird way has had, you know, an impact on like some people that like grew up on it. And I think we kind of like understand like that this is like bigger than us, and that this like means something to more than just like you and me. And I wanted to make sure that like we're going to be like faithful to that, because I think we kind of owe it to the people that, you know, whether they grew up on it or it was like their like comfort, you know, channel, or, you know, I think that I didn't want it to be just like a nostalgia grab.
No.
Like it can't be like you remember when, like I think it's fun to make references, and we had our announcement video we brought my mom back in.
Yeah.
Where it's like, I think like we can make silly nods to the old stuff, but like not be like, hey, oh, here we are being if movies are real, 10.
That's,
it's like
in my 30-minute diatribe, that's what I said. I said, I want this stuff to be fresh. I don't want it to feel like we're just playing to the old audience, the nostalgia factor.
Yeah.
I wanted the nostalgia,
but it can still be respectful to the people that's important to.
Exactly. And when we do throw in a nostalgic element, it's either an Easter egg or it's something that just makes it more funny, that makes it funnier for the people that know what it means. But we're writing all of our sketches now. We've already written 4. And we made it a point to have it all feel fresh and self-contained. You don't even need to have seen any other Smosh video in the past to get the overall story and the jokes. Yeah. But every once in a while, there's a little joke here or there that's funnier if you get the nostalgic reference, the play on our old stuff. Yeah.
So, I needed to believe that it was going to work. And then once we did that, I was like, okay, I'm in.
Yeah, and after we wrote that first sketch, you were so committed that you were like, I'm going to set a meeting with Rhett and Link.
Yep. So I reached out to Rhett and Link.
Yeah.
The owners of Smosh. And I took a meeting with the two of them, and I said, look, Anthony wants to come back.
Oh.
And they're like, what? Like they were really excited by that idea. Like, but
there's a caveat here.
Here's the thing.
Yeah.
He's not gonna do it unless we own it. And they're like, look, we'll figure it out. Link specifically was like, I don't even like want to talk about the business part of it. I just want to talk about like how exciting this is. And they were both like very supportive. Like they're like, look, we'll figure out the business side of it. We'll figure that out. But that's not the most important thing. Like, how do we make this happen?
Yeah, then it was at that moment that we realized that this was an actual possibility. And since that
Which
day,
I didn't know. I it was kind of like what if we own Smosh again?
Yeah. But from that moment, we've been secretly working behind the scenes to make this happen. And we've had to be so secretive that People don't even know about this.
People
as
at
we shoot
Smosh
this.
don't even know about it.
People at Smosh
Yeah.
do not know about this right now.
And in reality, you know, we shot this, we shot our announcement video, and we shot our first sketch
Yeah. And God, I mean,
yesterday. We shot our first sketch yesterday.
shot our first full
yeah.
sketch yesterday. It was our first time on camera again.
Yep.
And you know, just like you were hesitant about what our writing dynamic would be like,
Yeah.
there was that small part of me that was hesitant about what our on-camera dynamic would be like.
Oh, interesting. I didn't even think about that.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I got kind of.
I just figured like I didn't even think about that. You know, I knew it was gonna be a long day, and I hadn't shot a sketch like that in a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it was just so fun.
It was
we were like
fun.
laughing the whole time. I mean, I was f***ing tired at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it was, I was exhausted, but like had a lot of fun. We were like making jokes, we are kind of riffing, we are kind of changing some things on the fly.
It felt like we went back into the same patterns of what I feel was the golden era of us creating stuff together. It felt like we just fell right back into it, like no time had passed somehow.
And for the most part, we were exactly aligned, and anything that we needed to discuss, it was like we discussed it right there, worked out, we all agreed, and then just kept moving. There was never any sort of like conflict on
That's one of the best parts about working together is it doesn't feel like there's any real hangups. It feels like anytime there's some kind of hurdle, in a sense, it almost becomes a fun challenge to see how we can make it even better because this is now like a limitation.
Yeah.
You know, I found that when we have limitations, our content is a lot stronger. What we're making is more interesting, it's more dialed in.
Yeah.
And I'm just excited to see that. I'm so excited to see our first classic style
It's gonna be
Return to Roots Smosh sketch fully edited and back. Like,
I'm very excited. I think that the big issue, the big sort of question mark at Smosh was the main channel. It was the thing that just didn't quite have an identity. And I'm very excited for this main channel to have its identity again.
yeah.
Being sketch comedy with you and me, and the Smosh Pit and Smosh Games channels. I love what we're doing there. I think that there's so much more potential in games that we're working on, and Pit's incredible, and we're doing more things there. And
Those channels really found their footing.
yeah, I'm excited for the whole brand. I know that, this had to happen.
I agree.
I really feel like it just like
in a weird sense.
like
it
the
was-
timing, it's freakish.
Yeah.
How good this timing has been. And it just like makes me think like this just had to happen. Like there's
I
no
agree.
other way. This
Yeah,
couldn't
and-
happen in any other way.
I spent so much of my life regretting so many decisions that we made.
Yeah.
And now, in hindsight, now that I've had the perspective, I can see that every single thing needed to happen exactly as it did
Yep.
in order for this.
This wouldn't have happened if this opportunity came up 3 years ago.
No.
Like,
And it might have passed if it came up 2 years from now.
yeah.
It needed to happen exactly as it did.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited to see what we can do now that we have that full creative control of everything again.
Yep. This is like the logical like conclusion
Yeah.
to everything that's happened. And now we just get to create comedy again and you know, have fun, obviously work, but it's still work, but it's fun. And you know, I know this is something that you've been very clear, like, you know, this channel fulfills a certain part for you, but there's a certain creative kind of sketch comedy side of you that you feel like you haven't been able to like, scratch that itch, right?
Yeah, there was this kind of void
Yeah.
in my heart of not being able to fully express myself
Yeah.
because this channel does a lot for me. It allows me to express myself and
Yeah.
be things that are completely different than Smosh ever
Yeah.
could have allowed me to do, but there's still that part of me that
You can't make butthole jokes on this channel.
yeah, I mean, when it's appropriate. Maybe
Butthole
not
comedy is like low on the list.
Yeah, maybe
on
not
this-
with the kidnapping survivors or school shooting survivors, but certain episodes I do, it can come out. But that's the thing is like this part of me, you know, on this channel allows me to be curious and to learn about myself, to learn about others, to connect to kind of that deeper humanity that exists within all of us. And that's a part of me that needs to be expressed in some way as well. But then there's, you know, being able to just f around and be silly and not take life too seriously and find the comedy in everything and being able to spin some crazy idea into something so much bigger and more expansive than what it looks like. It's
what we're saying is that what the work that we do at Smosh is very important to the world and
life-changing.
Yeah, and if you don't watch it, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, don't be a piece of shit.
Don't be a piece of shit.
Subscribe to Smosh
and become
our
a member.
New channel and become a member.
Yeah,
and you'll get bonus content.
Yeah, good.
I feel like we got to get the hug in now.
Are we gonna do? Are we gonna do the low hug? The low hug?
Okay. No, but for real.
We gotta get in the. We gotta get in the shot.
Oh, we're full.
All right, let's rotate.
Are you doing the
rotate? We gotta show it.
so we get the butt from all the butts angles?
There we go. See?
I don't
Look at
know
that.
what this is, but
Just
that
dance.
is that our
Just did a dance.
was that
Somebody's
our,
gonna write a fanfic about that. Let me kiss afterwards. I'm so stoked for this, and dude, it's been months. It's been months, and I mean, I guess in some ways, years in the making. But this is the most. This is the. I truly think like this is the biggest thing that I think I've ever done, and I am so scared. And but I know that this is the way.
It's going to go well. It's going to go well. And even if it doesn't,
Look,
it's so
even
much
if
fun.
it doesn't do, and this is the thing, like even if it doesn't do well, I know that this is the right thing.
I agree.
And if we burn it to the ground, I am happy to do that with you.
I appreciate that. I think that was the sweetest you've ever been to me.
Oh, okay. I mean it. Let's burn this to the ground.
Let's do it.
Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
Great. I'm starting an OnlyFans.
Yeah?
No.
It's okay if you do. I
just
would
bad.
subscribe just to support you. Please don't start the fan fictions again.
Oh yeah.
Are the fan fictions going to start again?
I'm not opposed to it.
It did boost my confidence.
Did it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I especially loved when they would kill our girlfriends in the fanfics.
Oh, that was
and
the
then,
best.
And then we would get together.
Yeah, because that was the
That
secret.
that was tight.
That was the only thing holding us back
That
from
was-
expressing our true selves.
Yeah. It was, yeah, it would be like, yeah, our girlfriends would die in like a horrific car accident, and then we'd be consoling each other, and we'd be like, wait.
Yeah.
It'd be that, or they're like new to town. And it's like, oh, I want to be your boyfriend. And then you'd come in and be like, back off, she's mine.
Or we would be having fun with milk.
Dude, do not mention the milk fanfic. Please, for the love of God.
I'm just not denying history. I'm not denying facts.
No, it's true. It's the infamous milk fanfic.
Anyway.
We're going to expose a whole new generation to the milk fanfic. You realize that, right? You feel okay about that? You feel good about that, Anthony?
No, you should go look up Goat's Ear Blue Waffle instead. You'll feel better.
Probably less bad.
Yeah.